Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman. This is my little buddy Grogu, and we are here to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sitdown. Mando's already up on screen. My newest Grogu shirt, my mom bought me this. Presents are the way. Oh, they certainly are, Grogu. And this episode is a big old present for Star Wars fans, and I cannot wait to dive into this bad boy filled with all the spoilers. So why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We are getting ready to dive in, spoiler filled, into the Mandalorian, Chapter 16, The Rescue. Alright, I'm going to give you like 5 seconds to get up out of here, like right now. If you don't want spoilers and you clicked on a spoiler review and you didn't realize you clicked on a spoiler review, here's your warning. This is a spoiler review. And the next words that come out of my mouth when I'm done with this little spiel are going to be the biggest spoiler that you've ever had in The Mandalorian. So if you don't want to know it because you haven't seen it, I don't want to get yelled at. So you got 5. You got 4. You got 3. You got 2. You have 1. You're on out. You don't got to go home, but you got to get the heck up out of here if you don't want those spoilers. Because Jon Favreau did it. He freaking did it, man. He made Luke Skywalker show up and save the day. Mind blown. I mean, to a degree. I think Star Wars fans knew the most logical person for Grogu to reach out and connect with when he was on the Seeing Stone was Luke. But do you go there? Do you bring in Sebastian Stan? How do you approach the most iconic character in the Star Wars legacy? How do you do all of these things and make it work? And maybe this will be an unpopular opinion. It wasn't Sebastian Stan, although maybe it could have been him as a stand-in. But it's that CGI face reconstruction where they create a young Mark Hamill, a young Luke Skywalker. And it looks pretty freaking good, man. Like, it is pretty damn good. But no matter how many times Star Wars does this and does it really, really well, and even Marvel, no matter how many times they do it and do it really, really well, there is a quality that isn't quite human, you know what I mean? So when you see it, you know it's CGI'd, and this one, it took me a minute too, because I was like, is that Sebastian Stan? Is it CGI? Because it was really good. And then you're like, no, it's definitely CGI. But the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae, it's Mark Hamill's voice. When his name popped up on the credits, I lost it. And I said, you know what? Any reservations anybody has about doing this maneuver should be quieted and calmed just by seeing Mark Hamill's name in the credits. And what we get to see with Luke was pretty freaking awesome. I'm not going to say that it's exactly like Darth Vader's reappearance in Rogue One and what that did for the character, or what Boba Fett's reappearance and how he handled things being super badass and what that did for the character. I'm not going to say that this moment did that for Luke Skywalker, but like, we do get to see Master Jedi Luke Skywalker do some Master Jedi stuff, and it was pretty freaking awesome. Alright, there we go. I just had to get it off my chest because I've been dying to say it out loud to anybody other than myself since the moment happened. So there we go. It's out there. We all know. We can go about our day now. It's out there. We all know. We can go about our day now. Luke Skywalker shows up to save the day. And it is indeed Mark Hamill to a degree, which is pretty cool. But I want to do this spoiler review the way I do all my spoiler reviews, man. Me and Grogu want to go through this bad boy from the top, work our way all the way to the bottom and the end of this one. And there's so much to unpack. I've watched the episode basically twice now. While the non-spoiler review, which is up if you want to see the non-spoiler review, you can see it right there. But while that was exporting, and I was like editing my JPEG, I had the episode playing because I was looking for a still to grab, and I was like, you know, once I started editing, I just let it play out. So I've basically seen the episode twice, and it is, I think, to date, my favorite episode. A lot of it has to do with the fact that Luke Skywalker showed up and I lost it, but like, this is a really, really good episode for Din Djarin. This is a really, really good episode for Moff Gideon, and specifically, it's a really good episode for the women in Mando's life. We got Cara Dune, we got Fennec Shand, we got Bo-Katan, and we got Casca Reeves, Sasha Banks' character that was riding with Bo-Katan. We cut weight with the other two that was rolling with her, and it's just her and Banks, which is awesome. But those four in particular, they all get a little bit of a girl team-up moment, and it is a lot of fun to watch on screen. Obviously, like I said, Mando gets some good stuff. We get some cool stuff for Grogu. Maybe not the best stuff we've seen from Grogu, but like he's imprisoned most of the episode, so he can only do so much. But you do get moments where you're just like, that was perfect. Perfect usage of the characters and of this little guy. Boba Fett gets a little action too, man. We get some cool stuff with him. And like to be able to find room to let all of these characters get that, never lose fact that him are what this show has been all about, and getting to kind of go along on that journey and see everybody get a moment, and then even enough time for Luke Skywalker to get a moment. It's just a really, really impressive, tight 45-minute episode. We didn't even crack the hour mark here, and Favs is just, he knows what he's doing, man, and that work relationship that he has with Dave Filoni, clearly anybody could say the smartest thing he did was, hey, I want Dave Filoni producing with me. Because their vision together and what they've created and how Favs' vision meshes with all of the Star Wars stuff that Filoni knows, all of that's just on display really, really at its peak in this episode. And then Peyton Reed shockingly stepping in to direct here. I was expecting to see Jon Favreau's name at the end. You know, started the season, got to direct his first episode finally after not getting to direct any in season 1 because of Lion King things. Figure he's gonna bookend it and end the season. And no, he hands it to Peyton Reed. And I know some people are like Peyton Reed, but don't think he quite gets to the spectacle of it all. You know, those Ant-Man movies feel kind of small in comparison to some of the Marvel movies. But I've never held that against Peyton Reed. Like, everything he gives us in those movies, I really, really enjoy. And what he gives you here is everything that you want in the finale. He gives you big, well-shot action. He paces, you know, the script beautifully, where it's just like, it's not non-stop. Like, you get those beats and those moments where you can breathe and kind of take in, but it is pretty much a very non-stop ride. And the action and the threats and the excitement, it's all there and all operating on a really high level, where I sat there and I go, yo, Peyton Reed, if you bring this to Ant-Man 3, I can't wait to see what that movie looks like. And again, someone else, another one of these creators that clearly meshes very well with Jon Favreau. And it did. Like, I was expecting to see Favs' name at the end. I was like, oh shoot, Peyton Reed, good for you, man. You crushed this. So it's just, from that standpoint, it's everything you could want in a finale. So what's in the episode? Well, let's break it down, man. And I love that we jump right into the episode, like so often while we've been on this go. You know, you got Mando here, and his goal is over here, and he's gonna bounce here, over here, up around this corner, and then eventually maybe get to what we're going for. And usually when you're doing that, you kind of establish where we are in the universe and what the next thing is for the Mandalorian. And I suppose you could say the opening is an establishing of some kind. It's an establishing for the episode and what we have to do. But Favs and Peyton Reed knew, ain't no time to waste. We're getting right into it. And we jump right into this little mini battle with Slave One and an Imperial ship. And you just see it. The show opens. I think the first thing that comes through are two blasters going around, you know, missing the ship that Slave One is chasing. And you're just in the middle of a chase sequence. And it's gorgeous. I could watch these, you know, spaceship chases all day long. And the next thing you know, like, you're inside that ship, and you got a pair of Imperial pilots, which, again, wonderfully cast. They just know the type of people that are supposed to be Imperials. And even, like, the delivery from any of these guys, whether they're pilots or second-in-commands or, you know, Moff Gideon himself, there's just like there's a quality to it where you're just like, yeah, that dick is definitely an Imperial pilot, and that's the Imperial pilot here. He is a dick. But we see inside it's two pilots and then Dr. Pershing. That's who we're chasing. We're chasing the Doctor. And, after seeing like some legitimate blasters miss Pershing's ship, hit it with an ion cannon and just shuts the whole thing down. And then, sure enough, when those doors open, Mando shows up with Cara Dune. Cara's rolling with him, and we're right into it. We've got these, pilots that are, like I said, they're dicks, and immediately the main pilot grabs Pershing and is like, well, clearly this guy is important, so I'm gonna put him at gunpoint and try to get out of this. And he made a mistake. He's sitting there. He's got Pershing. The other guy's been disposed. And you got Cara and you got Mando. And they're both holding him at gunpoint. And Homeboy recognizes that Cara Dune is from Alderaan. So he mentions Alderaan and what the Death Star did. And credit to Cara Dune, man. She got a little dig in there, man. She was like, yeah, which Death Star were you on? And he's like, funny, but he kind of talks, and like he's pushing her, man. I tell you, Gina Carano, she was really, really good this year. Like you just see it in her face. It's like coming. You're like, you are one button push away from me pulling this trigger and just blowing your head off. And then he pushes that button. Cara blows his head off. Pershing freaks out. He's like, holy, what? And then we find out what the deal is. We're simply grabbing Pershing to find out exactly where Grogu is on Gideon's ship, where exactly Gideon's ship is, and the things that they're going to need to know, stuff about the Darktroopers, and just how the ship is functioned. And once Mando and co have everything they need, then we're off and running, man, and we're flying right to our next destination. You get another one of these beautiful shots. I love watching Slave One fly, just because of the way the ship is. Like it flies like this, up and down, and then when it's got to land, like you've got to flip it and land it. I love watching it move, and you get this wonderful wide establishing shot as it comes down and lands, and then the next thing you know, we're inside of a cantina that's awfully familiar to us, and it is that cantina where we were hanging out with Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves, and sure enough, Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves are right there, and we're like, all right, we're getting the band together. It felt like we were building in some kind of a way to like a Magnificent Seven type of a run, right? Like one of these westerns with this big group that's gonna all team up and go do something, and we almost get to 7. We get to 6 in this episode. Grief Cargo was missing. We needed Grief, but the 6 that we had, I was pumped with. So we see Bo-Katan, we see Casca Reeves, and then we see Boba and Mando come walking in, and I love this whole back and forth, right? Because you got a Mandalorian in Din Djarin who, apparently is from this, religious zealot sect of the Mandalorians. But, like, here's a guy who holds true to everything that, a Mandalorian has been taught to him. He never takes his helmet off. Knows that Beskar is supposed to go back to the Mandalorian. And then you have a Mandalorian in Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves, who are from Mandalore. They were born on Mandalore, or at least Bo-Katan was. And they're Mandalorian soldiers who were not part of that sect, and they take their helmets off. Then you got Boba Fett, who isn't a Mandalorian, and has a very interesting background and relationship to that. And I love that Bo-Katan calls him out on it. And then he says something, and then they give Sasha Banks some material. One of the things that was a little disappointing in her first episode was that we visually striking on screen, but they didn't really give her too much. Hard to kind of tell what kind of quality of an actress she is or could be based on what we got in that one episode. So what do we get here? We're going to give her lines. And, she kind of takes a dig at Boba and is like, since when do sidekicks talk? Are sidekicks allowed to talk? Is that a thing? You know, and like just the delivery on that, I was like, ooh, I like that. Like I like that a lot. And they give Sasha Banks some stuff in the episode to do. That's badass and Sasha Banks related. Like that fits her physique and her style. You know, coming from the world of wrestling. And the first bit we get is her and Boba Fett. They just start getting into an argument. And what's great is there's no yelling or raising in the voices. Like she kind of takes a dig. Boba stays right here and delivers. And then she comes back and then Boba delivers. And then they throw down. And it's dope, man. Like, they both get the upper hand on each other once or, you know, each. And then the next thing you know, they both end the same way. Shooting their fire blaster off their armor. Before Bo-Katan's like, stop it, both of you. Like, this isn't going to get us anywhere. And then she calls Boba Fett out. She's like, you're not a Mandalorian. She's like, I know that voice. You know, you're just, you know, or he goes, you know, that she's like, you're not a Mandalorian. You know, that's not your armor. He goes, no, it's my father's armor. And she's like, don't you mean like what's the word she uses? Basically like the person that your genes come from, like your you know, your cloning daddy, basically. Like, I know you're a clone. I've been around thousands of clones. I know what they sound like. I've heard that voice before. I know you're a clone. I don't care if you got to grow at a normal speed or not. Like, that's the thing. This is nice back and forth of 4 Mandalorian armor, at least, in one place, with all very different kind of perspectives coming from what Mandalorians are, and what it means to be one. And it was just like one of those things where it was like, we've got four suits. Let's put them all in a room together and kind of have them go a little bit. So that was fun. But then obviously we bring them onto the ship, and you know, once Mando basically tells Bo-Katan, he's like, no, we have Gideon's coordinates. We know exactly where he is. They come in. He pulls up, you know, the map that Pershing's kind of laid out, and like, you know, they kind of tell Bo-Katan what they've got to do, and then Bo-Katan, looking at the ship, is like kind of pointing things out about it. And the next thing you know, we're back off and we're running, and we are gunning for this ship. And we get back inside. We see that female co-pilot, or the one Imperial that's been around Gideon a bunch. She's at the controls, and basically all of a sudden, like, she's seeing 2 ships come out of lightspeed. And what's awesome is, again, that there's this little bit of contention between Bo-Katan and Boba, where, you know, she's just like, you better make sure those shots look real. And he's like, you just do what you gotta do. I'll put on a freaking show, man. And basically what they're doing is they're taking Pershing's ship and they're using it as a decoy to get onto Gideon's ship. So you see it come out of light speed, Boba right behind, and shooting. And right away, Bo-Katan is like, Mayday, Mayday, like, we need emergency docking right now. We're being chased. And you're like, it's one of those things where, like, it's a genius idea. Should work. But at the same time, Moff Gideon knows who Bo-Katan is, and Bo-Katan is the one who's making all the communications. It's not Fennec, it's not even Koska Reeves, right? Like, it's Bo-Katan. And no doubt in my mind, just on the look that's on Giancarlo Esposito's face, he knows right away. And he's like, send the TIE fighters out. Like, I've got a suspicion on this one. Send the TIE fighters out. And the TIE fighters go and try to take out Boba. And while they're leaving, as Bo-Katan is running this other ship right toward the TIE fighter tube that launches all the TIE fighters out. And you got the woman on Gideon's ship going like, no, like, get out of there, clear the tube. And 2 TIE fighters get out, they go chase Boba, and Boba takes off. You know, once he knows that he's done his job, he's distracting, he's the diversion, and you just see all the Imperial like, stop, don't keep coming, and they're like, sorry. Comes crashing right in, right as the TIE fighters getting ready to come out, like, they come crashing in. It's a really beautiful shot. Like, you see the TIE fighters are just kind of up on these things that like move them, and then they take off. And as it's like setting up, Pershing's ship kind of crashes, and immediately no one's like, are you okay, or like trying to investigate that way. Those doors open and blaster city. And the plan is, you know, the 4 women are gonna go just lay waste to everything, so Mando can quietly slip off the ship unnoticed and go find Grogu. Bo-Katan's only after one thing, man. She wants Gideon so bad because she needs to get that Darksaber back. And we get this wonderful little run where you have the 4 women just kicking all the ass, man. There are wonderful moments for Sasha Banks' Casca Reeves. She does a cool, like, fly knee hit. There's a cool, like, combo, like, I hit him once, I'm going to pass him back to you between Bo-Katan and Reeves. And just the way that they maneuver is so cool. And then you got Fennec and Dune, who are just taking out everybody with their blasters. Like, they don't miss. And it's fun. And we kind of cut this sequence of the 4 of them going with Mando getting off the ship. And just to finish out, like, the girls bit, like, they're kind of running through. You get to this, they get to, like, a ramp right before they get to the bridge. And I guess a bridge to the bridge. And as they're going, like, you see him kind of take out some people, and then you watch Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves from behind both dive off this way. And Fennec and Dune have, like, troopers coming at them, so they start taking care of business. And then Dune's, like, gun jams, and she's like, come on! And Fennec's like, I got you, and she's shooting, but there's, like, too many troopers, so takes the freaking gun and starts wheeling it like a bat. They take out their group, and then there's, like, 12 more coming behind them. And you're like, uh-oh. And not uh-oh for Dune and Fennec. It's uh-oh for the stormtroopers, because you know, those 2 Mandalorians come back up. Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves start firing. They take out all the stormtroopers, and then they head to the bridge. And like I said, while all that's going on, we're cutting back and forth to Mando, making his way toward the child. And then the last thing that we see Gideon do is he's like turn on, like, almost right away. Like, once he knows that something's going to turn on the Dark Troopers. And earlier on, we get, like, a full breakdown of what the Dark Troopers are. Pershing lays it all out there, you know. He's like, and Mando knows something, so he's like, all right, so who's in the suits? And Pershing's like, they're not suits. The final, like, perfection, you know, or the final imperfection taken away from what the Dark Troopers were over all these generations of building them was removing the human element and just making them droids. Which is just like a cool way to tie into the history of where the Dark Troopers came from, and things that we know from the legend stories and the video games where they showed up. Kind of just like a cool way to present, like, yeah, no, this is the final form, and this is how we got to these. And it's just one of those things that, like, was cool. Like, I liked having someone lay out exactly what the Dark Troopers are and how dangerous they are. So Mando's first move is, I gotta get to where the Dark Troopers are and shut that down. So you like, and I love watching him run through the hallways, man. He's so freaking quick. And just the little ways he'll jump or move out of the way so he's not seen as he's kind of moving through the ship. Like, I love that stuff. And it's just the quickness and smoothness to every movement that he makes, whether he's running and he's got his blasters, he's looking, or if he's dodging out of harm's way to get behind cover. We get really, really cool shots from Reed during this sequence too. Like, when he does duck out of cover, like, he pops into, like, a doorway, but there's a crack, so, like, you see him popping and the camera shifts where you're just seeing him through the crack looking through at these 2 troopers that come walking by. There's gorgeous stuff from Peyton Reed shooting wise this whole freaking episode. But anyway, I digress, you know. So Mando's just, like, running around trying to do whatever, you know, he knows he's got to do. He's kind of getting his bearings, running around the ship, and sure enough, his little bit, and just the way that, again, the way Reed just cuts all this stuff together and kind of plays it, like, you're bouncing back and forth between the girls and Mando as Mando's kind of running through the ship, but then simultaneously, the third thing you're cutting in there is the powering up of the Dark Troopers. You know, you hear Gideon say, power them up, and, like, you start seeing, like, you know, levels starting to raise, and, like, the power turning on, and then we go and we cut over to the girls, and then we go look at Mando, and then we come back. And one of the other things I love about this episode is Ludwig Göransson's scoring. I said it in my non-spoiler, and I'll say it from now to the end of time. This dude is a genius. I love the way that he scores things, and specifically the way he uses the score throughout the episode. There is a very kind of, like, massive moment that you're leading up to. And in this big build, all of a sudden you kind of get the horns and maybe some of the strings, but in a way that we haven't, where you're hearing the main theme, but it's being played as if the main theme was the theme song for, like, you know, a king or something. You know, like it had this really big feel, much more orchestral feel than the normal theme, but it is the theme. Like, you see it slip in there. The way he can take something that's sounding one way and slip the theme and then pull it back out. Or the thing that applies here is the way he can use sounds. All of the sounds to turning on the Dark Troopers become the beat around the Dark Troopers. It's freaking cool. It's always, you know, and they're syncing up. And I just watched a video with him where Göransson was talking about how he likes to just play with sounds. He did it with Black Panther, certainly did it with Creed. Anytime there's natural sounds, I want to take that sound. Now, how can I play with it to make it sound like music? And the turning on of the Dark Troopers sounds like music. It's really freaking cool. But anyway, they turn on, and as they turn on, the door opens for them to come out. Mando's like, oh no! And he sprints, throws the key fob that he has, and clearly that must have come from Pershing. Goes to lock the door right as the troopers are coming, and then the little things, man, that just elevate stuff. Like, you know, Mando is a sharpshooter. He's one of the best. Every time he fires, he doesn't miss. And as these doors are closing, you got like a gap that's like this big as the Dark Troopers get to it, and Mando's just choo 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 choo. And you're not seeing deflections; they're just going right into the Dark Trooper that's in front of him. And it's basically one Dark Trooper that gets his hands in the door and is able to pry it open and slip through. And he slips through right as like Mando's about to reach like for a lever, and he hits him, but then the door slams behind him. So you've got, I don't know, like 2-3 dozen Dark Troopers in this room locked, and they just start. I love the mechanical way they move and they punch. They're trying to break through the door, and Mando's working really quick. He's like, all right, I gotta do something. The next thing you know, he's getting hit. And what I love about this whole scene is how scary the Dark Troopers are and how strong and how powerful they are. This Dark Trooper literally kicks the living daylights out of Mando for like 2.5 minutes. I mean, every time we see Mando, like if we cut away and we come back, Mando's flying into another wall. And he's really struggling a lot. None of his gadgets and gizmos are working. You know, he shoots off all of his whistling birds, and that finally knocks the Dark Trooper down so he can gain his bearings and get his freaking Beskar staff again. They go into a fight, and it's awesome, man. Like the whole back and forth. And at one point, like, one of these things that we've been building all season is like reminding everybody that Beskar is like indestructible, to the point that like we even get a conversation in the episode about how, like, you know, Bo-Katan's talking about the Darksaber, and that's what she's after. You know, she's like, you go get the kid, but Gideon is mine because I want that Darksaber. And she's like, you know, it's a lightsaber. It kind of gives us a quick little history that basically, like, it gives you it would give someone the power to take Mandalore back, but also like it's something that cuts through anything except pure Beskar. And like they said it, and you were like, oh, that could kind of come into play. And all season long, it feels like we've just been proving time and time again, like Mando will become cover for other people because he knows everything will deflect off the Beskar. He could fight Ahsoka with the lightsabers because Beskar is stronger, like it won't break. And you get this scene where the Dark Trooper literally picks up Mando and throws him into a wall, and then just starts to bash his face with that friggin' mechanical punching. And every punch does nothing to Mando's helmet. And it's kind of like a trick play with the camera where at one point you think it's starting to dent it. You're like, oh man, did that just dent it? Like, shoot, are these Dark Troopers that strong? And it's not Mando's helmet. It's the piping that he's leaning up against. It keeps denting and denting and denting. And eventually it bursts and you get like all this steam shooting out. And I don't know if it was like Mando knew whatever it was or if it was just cool looking timing. But you get hit with the steam and then he shoots off his fire blaster and sets the Dark Trooper on fire. And like the fire's getting in like all the nooks and crannies, like not the outer shell of it, but like on the inside, since it's burning from out under him. just a really, really cool looking shot. And then that, eventually opens the door where Mando, I think, gets knocked down one more time. And he gets up, grabs the staff, and starts going to town. And eventually stabs this thing through the neck, rips it off. And, it's probably like a 2.5, 3 minute choreographed sequence where, like, you see how exhausted and how difficult that was for Mando. And, behind that door are, like, 23 more of these mofos. And they're getting close to finally breaking through the glass. And you see Mando just dive and right out the back door. And you're like, I didn't even think about this until they started coming back toward the end of the episode. But, like, as soon as he did, you were like, oh, genius, Mando. Like, you got rid of the Dark Troopers. Should have been thinking right out the get-go, like, they're droids. They can just simply fly back. And sure enough, that will happen by the time we get to the end of the episode. But once he dispatches of the Dark Trooper, there's only one place left for Mando to go. And after he finishes that, as he's heading, that's when we see Cara is in the elevator, like, still messing with her gun that's jammed. And they're like, you sure you don't need help? And she's like, dank Farrick or whatever. And, like, so many sayings. Favreau threw in, like, 5 or 6, like, just general Star Wars sayings that people must say in the galaxy. It was just all these little things that I love when he incorporates places or objects or things from the world that kind of play in like that. She's getting all frustrated, and finally it kicks on just in time for her to start laying waste. And that's that bridge scene on the way to the bridge. And when they do get through that sequence, after Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves, do their thing and take out all those stormtroopers behind Cara and Fennec, they go into the bridge, and the bridge is empty. Like, you got that girl that we keep seeing that's always with Gideon. She's on the bridge. But Gideon is nowhere to be seen. And as they take everybody out, Bo-Katan's like, where is Gideon? Like, this isn't what this is supposed to be right now. And we cut back to Mando, and he finds little baby Grogu's prison cell, and he opens it up, and sure enough, there's Gideon. Not just Gideon, but Gideon's got the Darksaber out, and he's hovering it, like, right around the kid's head, man. And, like, it's been more than an episode, like an episode and change since we last seen the little guy. And as soon as he comes in, man, he looks defeated and, like, not broken, but, like I've been stuck here. And then Dad walks in, and he, like, just does this little, and he puts his hands up in the cups, and just kind of looks at him like, and almost rips the heart right out of your chest, man. You're just like, oh, what are they doing to this little guy? Like, look how defeated he looks. And then, Gideon has a whole spiel with Mando. He's like, look, I'm only here for one thing and one thing only. I need this kid's blood. He's like, I'm going to tell you what's going on. Bo-Katan and her little band of misfits, they've probably headed straight for the bridge, and they're probably just realizing now that I'm not there, which is where she would expect him. I'm here. And he's like, look, I don't need to fight you. He at one point, like, he's waving the Darksaber as he's talking to him, like, right above Grogu's head. Like, I thought they were actually going to show that it, like, took off some hair on the top of his head. But thank God doesn't actually do it. But then lowers it down. And he's like, look, you want the kid. I want the Darksaber. I have the Darksaber. And Mando's literally like, I don't care. Whatever you want, I'm not here for you. I could care less. Bo-Katan wants you. She can have you. I just want that damn kid. Like, give me the kid. And, finally, Gideon's like, all right, fine. You take the kid, and then you get the hell off my ship. And we go our separate ways. We don't ever talk about it. And, like, Mando is obviously weary. But, Gideon and Esposito's delivery seems so genuine for a hot second. Like, maybe he is going to let him take the kid and just not fight and leave. And as soon as Mando starts to make his move, that Darksaber comes on, and right away, again, like I said, all season we've been building how strong the Beskar is, and here we get to see it on full display when we get a little fight between Moff and Mando, and it's glorious, man. Like, obviously, I was hoping for like a Bo-Katan showdown. Wanted to see Bo-Katan get her hands back on the Darksaber. But watching Mando fight Gideon, like, this is Mando's show. That should be the fight. It should be Mando versus Gideon. And he's got that Beskar staff, and he's got that Darksaber, and the Darksaber ain't doing nothing but making it glow red. I love it, man. Like, remember the sounds that like they really stressed Filoni, like really stressed them when he fought Ahsoka and the lightsaber. You get another sound here that's very, very similar but slightly different, and then you just get to see like an all-out back and forth between these two, and it's awesome. The choreography is so on point. The fight sequence itself is really good. They both get ups, they both get downs, and there is a moment, like I said, they've figured out a way to like animate a helmet. You know, there have been multiple times throughout the season where just the turn of the head or the way Mando looks, you feel like their eyes are getting big. And the first time he blocks, Gideon and kind of like is trying to hold him off with the staff, the Darksaber goes into the wall, and Gideon just starts walking across and pushing Mando. And Mando, like, there's literally a shot as it happens. Mando looks at the wall, then looks at Gideon, and like you could almost see his eyes light up, like, holy shit, Bo-Katan was not lying about this thing. Like, it cuts through everything but Beskar, and they go. And whether it's being held on the Beskar or they're just hitting it back and forth, it's starting to glow red, like in the middle. The way metal, when it heats up really, really hot, starts to glow red, and you're like, oh man, like, it's still not, like, destroying it. And you get a real good back and forth that ends up with Mando knocking that Darksaber out of his hand, doom, doom, 2 times to the dome, and you're like, get him, Mando! And you're so excited about all of these things that you forget stuff that you know. You know, so like I'm getting all pumped. I'm like jacked. I'm like, oh man, Mando just got Grogu back. Like, things are good. He's gonna bring him to the bridge. We're about to have like a celebration. I'm not paying attention to how much time. There's probably 15, 20 minutes left. 15 minutes probably at this point. But like, sure enough, brings him to the bridge, and Bo-Katan just goes, "What have you done?" And Cara Dune's like, "Well, he brought him back, not dead. Like, he said he wasn't gonna kill him, and that was her thing." She's like, he's wanted. I bring him in. That's huge for me. So, like, you can get your Darksaber. You can get your Grogu. I'm here for that guy. And, you know, the whole thing was, can't kill Gideon. He brought him in alive. That's awesome for us. And Gideon immediately knows what Bo-Katan is going for. And it's like at that moment that it kind of hits you like, oh, damn. Mando made a boo-boo. And that's the thing I love also about this show, is that it builds on things that diehard Star Wars fans know from books and comics and the animated shows, and gives us stuff where when we're watching we go, oh shoot, that's this thing. And heck, there are people who do that even more so than me because I've never read the books, but like lots of things that we see make you go, oh wow, like that's what that is. Like, I can't believe I just saw that come from this world. But if you're not that person, the show has done a really good job in making its content inclusive. Presenting it in a way where if you're a newbie, you can kind of hop on the train. My mother is the perfect example of this. She grew up with the original trilogy, never watched the prequels, didn't watch the new movies until recently. We had a marathon over the summer during the pandemic where my mom and my whole family and me, we watched all the movies. So now she'd seen them all. But she'd already watched season 1 of Mando before she went and saw the prequels or the newest movies. So, like, it's presented in a way where someone like my mom, who's an original trilogy fan, that's all she had, she can enter this show and pick up on it. And, yeah, I can fill her in on things, and that helps. But, like, she goes to me all the time, especially season 2. Season 1 we watched together. Season 2 I've been up here in Connecticut, and she's down in Jersey, so we're not watching together. And she's like, you'd be so proud of me. I'm watching this show. I'm following it, and I'm picking up on things. And I watch your reviews. I'm like, good job, Mom. I love that. I absolutely adore that. And that's the thing that's great about the show, is it gives you the ability to do things like this and have conversations like they're about to have. And it's presented in a way when you know, it doesn't feel like you're being beaten over the head with it. And if you don't know, now you're getting that background knowledge. And again, I love Giancarlo Esposito. Like, everyone says he's one of the greatest dudes in Hollywood. Yeah, he plays the most wicked, vile, villainous villains, man. Like, you just, oh, the evil just oozes. And he's, you know, obviously been hit in the face twice by Mando, so he's got a little blood on his mouth. And he's just got this smile, man. He's like, oh, You don't understand what she's saying when she asks, like, what did you do? Not about me. It's about that sword in your hand. That was the other thing. When the door opens and he comes in, you got Mando holding Grogu in one hand, a turned on Darksaber in the other, and Gideon in front of him. And as soon as it opened, I was like, I didn't know I wanted it, but now that I've seen it, I wanted it even more. Like, I was like, I hope we get to see Mando wield this thing, because it looks so pretty on that pure Beskar, the reflections stuff. But Gideon basically says, like, she gonna have to kill you to get that back. And Mando's like, what do you mean? Between Gideon and Bo-Katan, they basically say, like, and Gideon says this, he's like, it's not the Darksaber that holds the power, it's the story of the Darksaber. And the only way anyone has the Darksaber is they win it in battle. And if you win it in battle, then you get to have it. That's the only way that you can possess the Darksaber. And Mando's like, that's just stupid. Bo-Katan, here, take it. And Katie Sackhoff's face the entire time is just like heartbroken / confused / angry / crap. What do I do? And between her and Gideon, they confirm, like, yeah, the only way it happens is if we fight. And right as that's going down, you're like, oh shoot, like, what is gonna end? Man's just like, no, like, I yield. You can take it. Like, we fought. Here you go. And she's like, no, it doesn't work that way. And then all of a sudden, Gideon's like, well, maybe you'll get another chance to have this fight. You see outside just things moving. You see, like, actually, I think it's the radar screen. You just see a group of things moving towards the ship. I think Fennec's looking at it, and she's like, guys, we got something coming. And as soon as you see that it's multiple of them, you're like, duh! The Darktroopers are not humans. They're droids, which means after getting sucked out into space, they can just fly right back, and that's what they do. And you get this build of these Darktroopers landing and moving through this ship, and you got Gideon spewing Gideon stuff. I mean, Esposito's so good. He's so good. But you got all this stuff going on, and like Mando like puts Grogu down. He's like, "Don't worry, buddy. I'm gonna keep you safe." And kind of hides him behind something. Gideon's knocked down on the ground, and these Darktroopers get to the door, and again you get that mechanical punching again. And as it's happening, you're seeing the door dent, and Gideon's just like, "Oh, it's only a matter of time. It's coming." And while he lands on the ground, there's like a blaster right next to him. You're thinking like, oh, he's going to use it. And then, of course, naturally he does, right as things are going the way he doesn't expect them to go. So, like, as the door... And I love, man, like, just the way that Reed cuts back and forth between the troopers and things, or just things going... Anytime that there's, like, oh, no, he pulls that tension as tight as you can get it, man. This door is, like, slowly bending. And you're like, it's taking a really long time. Why is it taking a long time? And you see them, and they're all set, man. Like, Mando's in the middle... Grogu is behind the desk. You got Fennec, you got, Bo-Katan, you got Dune, you got Koska. They're all standing there, all ready to go. And then you hear, like, an incoming signal come off the radar, and they all turn, they look out the window, and you see effing X-Wing zip around. And there's this really cool moment where, like, the X-Wing lands, and you're like, oh my god, they're doing it. Like, and Cara Dune even says, like, great, one X-Wing, we're saved. And it's like, no, you don't understand. Like, one X-Wing, you are saved. And, like, as it comes and lands, like, as it's entering, all of a sudden Grogu's whole demeanor changes. Grogu has been, like, this little depressed guy, and he's leaning up against where, Mando's put him down. And he is, like, his ears are down, and, I keep not referring to him as a puppy, but he has puppy qualities, and like just the way his ears are down, he looks like a sad puppy dog. And as the X-Wing comes in and lands in the ship, and the Darktroopers all turn their attention to something else, all of a sudden Grogu's like ears start to perk up, and he kind of lifts his head like he feels Luke through the Force, which is so cool. But like as they land, everyone's kind of chilling. Like, you got Gideon on the ground. He's got, like, that gun covered up, so he's just waiting for a moment to use it. Everybody else is watching the monitors as we see a cloaked figure leave the X-Wing. And the minute the cloak figure showed up, I was like, oh my god, there it is. It's him. It's him. They're actually doing it. Now, are we going to see him? Is it Sebastian Stan? What's going on? My mind was racing. Simultaneously, I'm just geeking out hardcore because, like I said, it's not quite Darth Vader in Rogue One. It's not quite Boba Fett here. But we get to see Luke being like the badassest of badass Jedi, just mow through these Dark Troopers. And that's the other thing that, like, amplifies that scene with Luke, because we watched Mando, our hero, strongest guy in the show, guy who's always got the upper hand, come this close to losing to a Dark Trooper. So when Luke comes through and just starts lightsaber, once the green lightsaber came out, then it was like, oh, it's 100% Luke. And then sure enough, they gave us the shot where he's holding the saber and you could see the glove, and you're like, if I wasn't sure now, I'm 100% sure it's Luke. And what's crazy is the CGI coverage on his face, like, you know, much like you would expect with the cloak, it's over and you can only see his jaw for a good stretch. And like, there were moments where, like, you see a little bit of the jaw and nose, I'm like, that looks exactly like Luke. Like, is that freaking Sebastian Stan under there? Obviously, we know it's not as CGI Luke, but like, they CGI'd like the jaw and the chin. Like, it wasn't like a stunt double who had a chin. Like, they made sure it looked right. So even in the brief glimpses that you get, you see it. But watching him move that lightsaber, just cutting through all these things, and it's this great mixture of, like, you're seeing Luke do it, then you're seeing everybody react to Luke doing it and watching it on a screen, and then you'll watch him take out like 3, and then we'll go back in. And the moment that did it for me, man, he force pushes, he cuts off heads and limbs, and he gets to 1, and like, almost like he's got the upper hand, and like, he does like that, and that's like that Vader like crush with your fist, and you just see this freaking Dark Trooper crush, break, and just drop, and I'm losing my mind, dude. Like, it was so awesome to watch Luke just ripping through stuff at the type of level and caliber that you can do things now compared to the original trilogy, as far as like lightsaber work and, you know, whatever, and just the use of everything. It's poetry in motion, just watching it happen and knowing, like, oh my god, they're doing it. And right as Luke is kind of like, the tide is turning, you're like, yeah, Luke's got to take care of all this. That's when Gideon makes his last go. He grabs the blaster, he shoots Bo-Katan a bunch of times, and as Bo-Katan goes down, little baby Grogu pops out like, hey, I feel something going on. What's going on out here? And right as Gideon sees him, he turns to take him out. Our man, Mando, he knows, dives in front, takes the shots off that indestructible Beskar, and then Gideon gets up and is about to, like, shoot his head off. Like, he's going to commit suicide, and Cara Dune knocks the gun out, knocks him upside the head, knocks him out again, so that they still have him. So Gideon is still captured. And then we get another one of these cool little Grogu moments, where, like, they've put him back and he's in a chair, and everybody's back to watching these screens as Luke, you know, that bit I was talking about happens, I think, after Gideon gets knocked out. But, like, everybody's watching, and you see just Grogu, like, reaching out to the screen for him, and, like, just reacting immediately. Like, he knows who he is. He can feel it through the Force. They could be communicating right now for all we know, but he knows that that's the guy he communicated with, and he's like, ah. And you see Luke dispatch everybody. I mean, you know, he's coming just outside the door. And everyone's kind of looking, and Mando looks at Grogu, and Grogu looks at Mando, and goes, like, one of those coos, and just reaches out, like, no, that guy is okay. And there was even a cool point where, like, Bo-Katan, before she gets shot, she's not hurt, but just knocks her down. But before that happens, like, while she's monitoring, and she watches him, like, get off the ship and start doing things, she's just like, a Jedi? And it's like, she's seen Jedi, but she hasn't had any interactions with Luke that we know of, or even knows that Luke exists. So, like, she's like, a Jedi, like, and doing, like, Jedi things, you know? But anyway, once Grogu kind of, like, confirms to Mando, he's like, open the doors. And the doors open, and smoke comes billowing out, and that green saber is just glowing, and that black glove is on that hand. And he comes in, lowers the saber, and you see him, like, hang it on his thing. And that's where, like, you're really seeing the chin. I'm like, oh, man, this might be Stan. And he takes it off, and it is that CGI'd version of Mark's face that looks really good. You can just tell that it's a CGI version of Mark's face because you can't have young Luke Skywalker unless you did that. But then he opens his mouth, and the minute he starts speaking, I was like, "Oh, Favreau, you're so good. Like, you got, Hamill, I think in season 1 to voice one of the droids somewhere just to have him in the show. Now you bring him back for his second voiceover work to voice himself. Like, that was the bit where I was like, that's Mark's voice. Whatever they want to do now, I'm okay, because I didn't see the CGI face doing all the cool lightsaber and Jedi stuff, so like that played well. Even if this isn't playing well, and for me, like I said, I think that the visuals are really good. The minute Mark's voice comes out of him, you're just like, yep, I'm in. And I'm geeking, because like, that's what's happening. Like, it's actually Mark. They didn't get someone else. They just physically got someone to stand there, but like, it's Luke Skywalker talking to us. And as I'm geeking out, he's like, all right, man, like, come on. He's like, come on, kid, like, and he basically says, like, I know, like, what the deal is. I'm here to come, kind of train him. And Grogu is responding specifically to the Mandalorian, and Din's just like, he doesn't want to go to you. And Luke's like, he's asking for your permission, bro. Like, just let him know it's okay. And, he basically tells him, he's like, look, kid has got a really strong connection to the Force, but he's not finished training, and he's dangerous. Like, with that kind of power, without proper training, he could be really dangerous. Like, let me take him so that doesn't happen. And like, as a fan, you're sitting there going, no, let Luke take him so that doesn't happen, because it really feels like they've been building Grogu to potentially be, like a villain at one point. You've had all these kind of moments where you're like, give him to Luke and we'll be okay. And, that's when he's like, he's just looking for your approval, basically. And, oh my God, Favreau, oh man, like I said, he makes you laugh in this episode, like some of the back and forth with like Sasha Banks and Tamara Morrison, great stuff. The gun stuff with Cara Dune, like, I've been laughing, I've been cheering, I've been on the edge of my seat. Everything that's going on has been awesome, and you're getting ready to see Mando say goodbye to the kid, and just I feel it, man. Like, I feel all the emotions the way I'm feeling them right now, like welling up. And the kid reaches out and just like touches the Mando's face. He's like, come on, kid, like, you go with him, like, you can kind of trust him, and he's like, I promise you, like, I will find you, I'll see you again, we will be together, I promise. And he reaches up and like just touches his helmet in a way where it's like this sweet, tender moment, but at the same time, he's like, mother effer, your promise don't mean jack with this freaking helmet on. And all of a sudden you see the hand come up and you're like, oh, he's gonna take it off. Man takes it off, and there's Pedro. And this is why you hire Pedro Pascal, even if he's in a freaking helmet for the whole show, because the voice acting has been tremendous. But when the helmet finally is able to come off, again, like, there's a little bit of that shame and guilt that's just embedded in the nature of, like, I'm taking my helmet off. But also, like, and he kind of feels like this, and he's got his eyes closed, and the kid reaches up and does it and touches his face this time, and Mando kind of like opens his eyes, and God, dude, like, freaking Pedro's face was just so spot on. I immediately just started weeping like a baby. Like, oh my gosh, you're seeing like a father and son legitimately say goodbye to each other, and all that emotion that was welling up, the punch comes when you can see it on his face. And like I said, they've figured out ways to just turn his head or move his body to make the helmet express. You can't get what you need here without it. He takes it off and he touches him, and I'm just like, I was done, man. Like, KO'd, And they say goodbye, and he puts Grogu down. And you think that's all it's going to be. But, like, the kid, even on the ground, the kid is still looking up at Mando, like, what? And then a door opens, and you hear some beep booping that's real familiar, and freaking R2-D2 shows up, man. And you're like, what? R2! Got so excited, like, oh, it's Luke and R2, and now it's like so Star Warsy. And R2 comes and says a couple things, and immediately the kid like recognizes it. And the kid like coos back to him, and all of a sudden you see like the feet come up and he bows. Like R2 bows to Grogu because he knows the last time he saw something like that, it was Yoda. And Yoda was really important to Luke and that story, and he had that connection. And he understands, obviously, I'm sure Luke probably filled him in a little bit after talking to him, but, like, understands, bows, and after he bows, Grogu kind of coos, and then R2, like, shakes and gets all happy. And it's like, these are the things, man, about Star Wars that you live for, man. Like, those freaking droids are so important, and we really haven't had a droid this year, right? Like, we had IG-11 for a bit last year, and yes, there have been droids that have popped up, in this season, but we haven't had that like moment with one of the droids, and to just get a moment where you get to see a droid react or get happy or like, I love that about Star Wars, and to see him react to Grogu like that was just awesome. And then at that point, like after Grogu has talked to R2-D2, he does this, and Luke picks him up, and Luke's holding the baby, and you see Pedro's face like breaking. And Luke turns and walks, and baby's looking over his shoulder, and the door shuts, and end of the episode. Genius stuff. The other thing to talk about that whole stretch, scoring. Listen to Ludwig's score. The way he brings in the Mandalorian theme, the way he brings in the Dark Trooper noises into that theme, the way he then swings it to way more strings, and then delivers the theme in a way where the way it was building, it almost felt like it could have fallen right into John Williams' score. And by the time you get to the end of the episode, in the end of that stretch, as the door closes and everything, like the same way, this way that it's building and then it closes, it's Mandalorian, like in its nature and the type of sound that you're getting, but it is reminiscent of how the score wells up right at the end, and then that wipe to the credits and and like you could hear the John Williams score coming in as that door closed, and of course it doesn't. It goes into the Mandalorian score, but again tweaked. The whole credit sequence is tweaked, where that score sounds different, but it is the Mandalorian score, and it was like, he just finds ways and different elements or tones that you can call back, like that immediately you're like, that's Luke Skywalker when that score is hitting, and that's so Star Wars. And I love the way Göransson does that, and the way he played it into a Luke score and played it into the Mandalorian score, and all of it felt like John Williams was just waiting to come in with that Star Wars theme. That's the stuff that I love about this show. In my excitement, I was like, okay, I gotta go to the bathroom. I go in the bathroom. I'm listening to the score, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing what sounds like action. And I'm like, no. Shot out of the bathroom, no pants on. I was like, grabbed the remote. I didn't even want to see it. And I rewound it back, came in, and all of a sudden, you're watching the end of the credits, and they come up on Tatooine. And then you're at Jabba's palace. And you're inside Jabba's palace, and Bib Fortuna from the original trilogy is sitting in Boba's throne, and all of a sudden you see what looks kind of like a Mandalorian shadow, and you're like, well, it's Mando, why would Mando come here? And then you see the shadow of a woman, and you're like, that's Fennec. And then it hit me what was happening, and sure enough, Fennec comes down the stairs, and then you see that Mandalorian-looking shadow again, and then Boba Fett comes down the stairs, and they walk up, and Bib immediately realizes what's going on, and he's like, oh my gosh, Boba, where you been, man? So nice to see you. You survived that Sarlacc pit? What's going on? What do you want? And I don't even think Boba says anything. He just takes the gun up, blasts Bib Fortuna right in the chest. He slumps down, walks up. Boba knocks him out of the chair. Fennec takes position right next to the throne, and Boba sits down on it and just kind of sits there, and you're like, oh, that was so satisfying. And then, in Marvel fashion, goes black, the Book of Boba. And you're like, or it might be the Book of Boba Fett. I think it said the whole thing. I just stopped reading after the Book of Boba and freaked out. And then it went down, and then came up, coming December 2021. And I was like, we have a release date for the Boba Fett spin-off show, which we've heard rumored, but I don't think had been confirmed. There was so much stuff that came out during that investors meeting. They might have said it was confirmed, but I don't think anything had been confirmed. And then you get to the end of this episode, and not only is it confirmed, but we've got a date, man. December 2021, we're getting the Boba Fett show. And considering where they left off, Boba coming and claiming Jabba's throne, I am really, really interested to see where we go with that show. Oh, such a cool tease right at the end to get us soaked for something new. But in no way takes away from the phenomenal finale that we got. If anything, it just was a nice little, hey, we're coming. We're coming. There's more. The Star Wars world's going to start building out, baby. It's coming. And it's coming fast. We got Ahsoka. We got Obi-Wan. We got the Bad Batch going to the animation world. Like, all of the good stuff. Patty Jenkins got Rogue Squadron. They are back, baby. Star Wars is exciting again, and there is so much to get excited about. And it all started with this guy and that little guy that's this little guy. They have become the doorway to so much more. And yet we never, ever lost that. A lot of people could say this season was more about setting things up for future stuff. And to a degree, sure. We set up stuff for Boba Fett. We set up stuff for Ahsoka. We set up stuff for Bo-Katan. I don't know if she gets a spin-off or where that goes, but like we set up all these things with these other characters. And at the end of the day, that's fine. That happened. You can't deny it. But the show is still inherently his. And the story is his. And the things that are important in the story tie back to him, which is extremely important to him. And having all of that, like I think anyone who may have been worried or questioned, specifically with the side mission stuff from last season, if the end of last season didn't bring that together in a way where you're like, oh man, you know what? I get it. This season does it even better, man. Like, you're able to go back to those things that we set up last year. We're able to set up new things, and we're able to tell this story that is the Mandalorian story wholeheartedly, but introduces to stuff that can tell us other stories. Because there's so many stories out there in the galaxy, and watching this show just makes you want to watch more. And the more shows we have that can interconnect or at least cross paths, it can feel more like a continuation. It's like, hey, we spent this section of the story with Mando. Now we're going to jump over to Ahsoka and go follow her part of the story. Or we're going to jump over to Boba. We'll follow his part of the story. Maybe Mando will weave into those shows or whatever. Because right now, Season 3... Mando's solo again. Grogu's getting trained by Luke, which I hope we get to see. I don't know. I don't know if there are plans to try to bring Luke back. Maybe having him show up at the end of this episode is, testing the waters. See how the fans respond to it. And then maybe you can try to cast Sebastian Stan and maybe use Luke. But Lord knows, I hope we certainly get to see at least a glimpse of Luke training Grogu, but I would imagine that by the time we get to Season 3, Grogu's still going to be training, which means we could theoretically have a season where Mando can just go do Mando things. And maybe he's, doing them with the New Republic. Maybe he's doing them with Bo-Katan. Maybe that could be the most obvious route. Like, next season could be a lot of Bo-Katan and Mando. And what's the deal with that, too? Like, where do you go from here? Is Bo-Katan now going to have to become a villain to the Mando at some point? Like, she wants that Darksaber. Mando's still got it. She might have to fight him. I don't know. I don't know how you resolve that. But, like, there's still that desire in me to want to see Bo-Katan turn that bad boy on. But, after watching the Mandalorian fight Moff Gideon, and then just seeing him hold it, I was like, you know what? I want to watch him wield it. I want to watch him wield that Darksaber. I hope that's what we get. I hope we get all sorts of stuff like that next season. But as much as Grogu is a huge piece to this series, and if he was gone for an entire season, it could be tough. I'm not against a solo Mando season where he can just kind of go out and do things and we don't have to worry about the kid, and we know that the kid will eventually come back, and when he does, hopefully he's speaking and hopefully he's wielding a lightsaber and doing all sorts of cool things like Yoda used to do. But no matter where we end up, for me, Season 2 is just a big step up from Season 1, and it comes from the storytelling. I think the quality is there, but I thought the content was better. It was a step up. The directors, anybody that came back, I think just added to what they did before and stepped up their game. So much so that even Peyton Reed did it in one season, man. He established, hey, here I am, I'm part of the world, woo! And then showed you that step up by the time you get to the last episode. And from the creators to all the actors that were brought in this season and the new characters, and just the way that they're kind of expanding this universe, it just worked, and it tied together so well that by the time you get to the end, every payoff known to mankind comes in this finale, and you get all the goods, and it was just wonderful. And I hate that after 8 episodes we're done again, but was it worth it? I tell you, one thing that I am semi looking forward to is being able to sleep in on Fridays again. I am really tired. I don't know if you can tell in my eyes. I've had like almost no sleep. Last night I got fantasy playoffs and football, so I was watching the game and things didn't go great there, and then only like 3 hours sleep, so I'm tired. So I am looking forward to sleeping in next Friday, but it will pain me not to have this to go to. But we do have a Mandalorian special dropping on Christmas. I think it'll be I only saw the headline. My friend texted me. I haven't looked into it, but it's the headline made it, and the picture made it seem like it'd be more behind the scenes stuff probably. But some sort of Mandalorian special coming around Christmas. I'm here for that. Sign me up for that. Sign me up for all the Star Wars shows. I am psyched because Star Wars is back, and back the way that Star Wars fans want it to be back. And I cannot wait to see what Favs and Filoni do next year with this. I can't wait to see what Filoni does. I would imagine what Filoni does with the Ahsoka show. I can't wait to see where we go. But for Season 2, it was really, really good stuff. You really saw so much growth from this character, and the connection between him and Grogu this season was so much stronger and bigger and important. I mean, took his helmet off to say goodbye to the kid, man. They did everything. They did everything you could have possibly wanted, and then some. They did this Luke Skywalker thing, and I'm like, I don't know where to go, man. I'm like, I'm done with the Mando. I don't want to stop talking about it because it means it's over, but it is over, and I've got to stop talking. So I love the finale. I loved all of Season 2. I like this better than Season 1. I just think Favreau and Filoni and this whole group of creators, after getting one season in the books, figured out how to make it better, figured out how to make it more compelling, figured out how to elevate it in a way that was just tremendous. So, I'm a big fan of The Mandalorian, if you didn't know. But very, very happy with the finale. Couldn't have done anything better than what they did. So, there you go, man. Those are all my spoiler thoughts. There's a lot of them. There's so much to talk about, man. I could keep going. But that's it. All I got on Mandalorian Season 2. Loved it. Now I want to know what you're thinking, man. What'd you think of the finale? Now you can spoil it. Well, when Luke Skywalker showed up, when that X-Wing came into frame, did you lose your mind? Did you go absolutely crazy? Did you think that it was going to be Sebastian Stan? Were you okay with the CGI Luke, knowing that it was Mark's voice? Does Mark's voice help the CGI element? What'd you think of the CGI? Does it work? Would you like to see more Luke Skywalker in this fashion? Or would you be okay with, you know what, you gave me that, it was a great setup, now if you wanted to explore more, you go to Sebastian Stan or somebody. How does all that fall, and how does the finale fall, man? I mean, Mando's got the Darksaber. He may have lost the kid, but he's got the Darksaber now. he could be enemies with Bo-Katan because she wants the Darksaber and you gotta fight to get it. What does it mean as far as like Mandalore is concerned, and what's next for Mando? What was your favorite moment in this episode? Did the Darktroopers do it for you? Did this little guy freaking touching that guy's face do it for you? Did you cry? Did you laugh? Did you scream? What'd you think of the finale? Good, bad, indifferent? Down below in the comments. And then, of course, what'd you think of the season as a whole? Was it better than season 1? Are you super stoked for season 3? Are you even more stoked for all the other things that are going to be coming out in the world? Anything you got about Mandalorian, Star Wars, spin-off shows, anything, down below in the comments section. Look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man as we recover from the end of the Mandalorian and gear up for all the stuff coming out at Christmas. We got a lot to talk about in the movie world, and something super special coming up for me. You want to be here for all that and you haven't yet, jump over there, man. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that little bell if you want those alerts. Come join C-Maniac Nation. We want you. We need you. I want to, just have more fun interaction with you guys at home. So do that if you would like to come join along all the time. And until next time, man. Until next season. Until the next Star Wars thing. Until the next movie or trailer. The C-Man Cinema Sit Down. The Mandalorian Season 2 in the books. This has been my buddy Grogu. Hanging with us all year. I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace. Well, that's all live and breathe. You still here? Check out a video like this one or this one. And hit the subscribe button so you can get alerts and check out everything the C-Man's got at the Cinema Sit Down.